So we're just going to read a chapter from this book. There's different levels and abilities to being clairsentient. So we're going to read over a couple of examples. So, clairsentient is frequently defined as the ability close to intuition to sense physically manifestations that cannot be perceived in any other manner. The most common example is an ability to sense a strange atmosphere in a house as soon as one enters it. The ability is akin to psychometry and can show itself as generally uneasiness, prickling of the hairs on the back of the neck, or a distinct feeling of coldness. Some people can actually see former inhabitants either in the mind's eye or externally. Joyce and her husband Bill were house hunting in Edinburgh and were sent to view a property that seemed to fit their requirements perfectly. However, as soon as Joyce entered the house, she started to feel lightheaded and strange. She told Bill, the estate agent accompanying them, that she wanted to leave the place immediately. Bill told her not to be silly, as they had not even viewed the house. Joyce pulled herself together, but still felt very ill at ease. As soon as she reached the basement, the kitchen, where the kitchen was located, she felt extremely ill and was on the verge of fainting. Joyce could sense something dreadful had once occurred in this area. And near the cooker began shaking uncontrollably. As the estate agent opened the oven, Joyce ran out of the house. Her husband took her to the nearby cafe for a cup of tea to help her regain a composure. A few weeks later, Joyce mentioned the incident to her mother, who had a friend who lived in the same street as the house they had viewed. Her mother discovered that years before, a single man had shared the house with an elderly woman. One had killed, then he gassed himself in the oven. However, the majority of clairsentience's experiences are far more positive. Houses can retain happy atmospheres of former inhabitants, living as well as dead. Some exude a sense of peace. After a family member has died, relatives often sense the deceased person's presence around their former house. On anniversaries or at times of sadness, a calm, loving presence. By far the majority of family ghosts are experienced in this way. Jan, who lives in Essex, told me, "My sister-in-law Carol was killed at 23, and her favourite food in the world was my ex-mother-in-law's chocolate cake. Carol had give me the recipe, and after her death, when I was living in her flat, I made the cake several times. Each time, I felt I had someone with me. Eventually, this annoyed me so much I said, 'Carol, will you please let me make this cake in peace?' Soon afterwards, I lost the recipe. I now regret my actions in that I lost the recipe for the best chocolate cake ever, and also my sister-in-law. Such experiences are usually spontaneous, but it is quite possible to tune into places and into the essence of people who have loved, who have died, by visiting places where we shared happy memories with them, Psychometry is a natural way of receiving impressions, but from my own research, I have discovered that the sense of smell is a good entry point into clairsentience, and indeed is often the primary way people sense either the dead or the history of the place. Smelling a deceased grandmother's favourite perfume or a phenomena, and a strong smell of a certain flower is often associated with a particular ghost. For example, one of my most frequent reported ghosts at Billington Manor in Chellington on the Isle of Wight is the Grey Lady, whose appearance is accompanied by a strong sense of Madonna lilies, not to mention the shaking of furniture and ornaments, even in the calmest of weathers. The Grey Lady, known only as the former Miss Lee, lived in the house in earlier 18th century. She had been forced to marry one of the very powerful Worsley family, who took up residence in Billingham after rebuilding in 1722. Miss Lee was passionately in love with a French nobleman, and the affair continued after her marriage. Eventually, her husband confronted the lovers in the garden. Some accounts says that this was near a bank of Madonna lilies. Others say that the nobleman was wearing a Madonna lily given him by his love when he was killed in the ensuing duel. Henceforward, the wife was confined to the grounds of the manor and died of a broken heart. In some of more romanticized versions, clutching a Madonna's lily, the symbol of her lost love. How to become psychically attuned to the atmosphere. Your psychic antennae are already present. Few of us have not felt at some time, that a place is spooky or unfriendly, or that we feel irritable or afraid for no apparent reason. Often there is, on investigation, a reason, perhaps an unhappy incident at the place in times past. Clairsentience is a very important skill to develop because it offers protection not only against bad vibrations from the past, but also against present dangers or potential hostility. The intuitive response that tells us a stranger is untrustworthy, even though his or her outer appearance or actions offer no apparent justification for this distrust. It is inbuilt in us all, but too often we do not recognize our natural warning sign system. Dogs will growl at some strangers but not others, while a normally confident child will sometimes instinctively back away from a friendly smile and outstretched hand. In both cases, the person usually proves to be unreliable or to have a negative intention behind the smile and soft words. This is the same intuitive ability that makes us instantly like or dislike a place, and a person who readily senses an atmosphere in a place usually has the same knack when summing up people. He or she didn't smell right is one expression used by children. So if you noticed, it says some people can actually see former inhabitants either in the mind's eye or externally. So the mind's eye, it's essentially in the centre of your brain. It's where a lot of all your impressions, if they're not external to your mind, they're all in there. And what it'll be if you come across this door, this gateway, it's well, it's 2-dimensional, and it's in your mind and you can see it. So what you have to do, because the door is in between 1 dimension and our dimension, so it's 2-dimension, so it's very hard to retain your vision on this door because it's continuously moving, and it's really hard to keep your eyes still. And what you have to do is be perfectly still. And even me myself find it hard to keep my eyes still. However, if you keep your breathing down and you keep your focus, you can keep perfectly still, and you can go on and go through into the other dimension, no problem. Yeah, it's a little gateway in your mind, a metaphysical gateway. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for listening.